Okay, hello to everyone listening and watching us out there. Welcome to Melanin and Moonlight. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyrell Collins.
I'm the other Vernon Scott, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the podcast. How
Yes,
you
yes.
doing today, Tyrell?
Oh, doing good, doing good. It's been a week, it's been a month, it's been a year.
Yeah,
All those things.
yeah, all those things, all those things.
All those things. How about
Uh,
you?
it's the same. Just ready to get these life changes out of the way. I definitely, I'm happy I took this weekend off-ish. Mostly the reason why I was off was because where I was at, I had no internet and I couldn't see my clients. So I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I have to cancel our session. So it is what it is. But it gave me a little time to relax, but was still kind of a busy weekend too. I'm just waiting for a weekend full of I'm not doing anything. I'm not going outside. I'm not talking to nobody. I'm not communicating with people. Fuck you. Ooh, I'm sorry, y'all. That came out. I forgot where I'm at. But like, I don't
Where no
care.
is a complete sentence, like no.
No, no, there's no obligations. There's nothing. Lose my phone number, at least for the weekend. We can text on Monday.
Exactly. Like, it is what it is.
Right, right,
Y'all
right.
would just look, I know I'm important, I know I'm powerful, but y'all just gonna have to get along without me.
Exactly. And well, before we even get into the things, have you seen the Keenan and Kel Hot Ones versus? If not, you need to see that. It's actually really cute. I enjoyed it. I laughed a lot.
Oh, wonderful.
Like, definitely watch that. That was really
Well, I mean, they're wonderful. I mean, like with what they do. So I pretty much knew it. Like, obviously, anything that they do, like, is gonna be great.
I actually do want to try those wings from Hot Ones, but I know I have my own spice limit, but I just be like, where are we getting these wings? Who's making them? They
Sometimes it
look
can be
good.
worth it. Sometimes
Look,
it can be worth it.
look, they be looking good. I'm like, they have a nice little crust to them.
Hmm.
Send them my way.
Exactly. Like, what? Let's do this. Let's
Right.
do
But
this.
anyways, to jump into today's conversation.
Uh,
I know you saw it. I did not see it, unfortunately. But I've been hearing mixed reviews about it regardless. But BET Awards, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, for obviously anybody, watching, listening to us, of course, BET, Black Entertainment Television, we always have our, annual award show every year. And it's something that over the years, of course, like and again, not everything is meant to be for you, so again again, if you don't know the history of some changes that went along with BET over the years, go look it up. You could do a whole dissertation about it. We're not here to do that, but essentially the BET Awards has become something like, okay, I will put on because it's like, it's the night for the culture, everything like that, but I do fast forward through all the things that I just don't care about or I want to see. So I thought, we thought that there was some interesting moments that happened that were really um really good for conversation. And one of the first ones I kind of thought about that was like circling around. Of course, we all know we love Keke Palmer, obviously actress, podcaster, entertainer all around. She had a very viral moment at the awards that was and so the um, the internet comedian Druski was the host for this year, and a very viral moment happened where as he was hosting, he's going out to people in the crowd, and he comes across Keke Palmer and them two having their back and forth banter. But at one point, she kind of, just like grabs the mic and says that, like, and joke, like, like this should have been my gig. Like, why do they have you, like
Okay.
hosting? And, and so as she kind of, introduces the next act, which I think was Cardi B, but it brought on a kind of more like, no matter if it was scripted, of course, as we know, like, hosts, they tend to, make scripts, they tend to single out people in advance. So, sometimes obviously moments, during live award shows, it is scripted. Sometimes obviously because it's live, certain things are going to happen. So not here to debate about whether or not it was, scripted or, just really live in the moment. But it really did signal this conversation about this kind of moment of exposed tension, though, because the joke worked because, like, a lot of people, I think, were thinking the same thing, like in the like in the moment. Like when we think about Keke Palmer, Keke is somebody who actually has a real hosting resume, from like the VMAs to Saturday Night Live to Soul Train to her own, kind of podcast, things like that. And again, I just want to preface this conversation. This is no offense to the guy, Druski. In some ways, I understand why BET would have, gone with him because he is a comedian in this kind of digital creator,
Mhm.
kind of era. He does like a lot of collaborations, and things like that. So I think that BET was really trying to go for this kind of natural bridge between like internet culture with like traditional like live television. So in that kind of aspect, I do get it. But I was just like kind of thinking about, is this moment actually getting to something greater? Like, was BET choosing like hosting skills, or was it choosing like this kind of cultural virality, kind of aspect? And so just, kind of throwing that conversation out there where, we're kind of talking about, not just hosting, but the choice in which you are putting somebody on this very public, kind of platform. So just what do you kind of think about, the nature of maybe choosing Drewski to host? And this is not like, oh, Drewski versus Keke Palmer, but like what do you think maybe some decisions are about
Mhm.
why, they would have chosen him to host?
Yeah, like th that clip, because that was definitely one of the ones that, like I think immediately after the BET Awards, I saw it on TikTok. I was like, this is actually a good question. Like, I heard of him, being selected as a host, which of course, don't care about it. I wasn't really planning on watching anyways. I was just like, I hope it's funny, because Drewski, he is hilarious. He does have some great, productive, well, greatly produced content out there that is very hilarious. And then just knowing Kiki's history, I'm just like, even if in this little bit that they had going on, it had me questioning. I was like, that's I too wonder why they chose
It's
Drewski
like
over
that's
because
one
I
of
was
those.
like, even with the introduction here, I was like, I immediately started laughing as soon as Kiki started her rebuttal because I know it's going to be wild. But like, I do think that their main factor here was we want the eyes. We know that he has a huge audience, and Drewski's audience does have a crossover. He's not just predominantly black person. Like people don't just view him within the black community. He does have somewhat of a global support, which is great. But at the same time, that does not move towards practicality. Like in Drewski's humor, we only know him as being funny on the things that he has his hands on, the things that are edited to be funny. We don't have a history of knowing how he would be in a hosting role, right?
Mhm.
Even with his own show, like there's funny moments, but the funniness comes from the situations and not necessarily him being an active. I guess he's not delivering any punchlines or anything like that. It's just
Mhm.
this is a funny situation and I'm calculating. So. But then when we throw in Keke Palmer, sis is she's situational. She has a very great mastery of irony. She can really hit a punchline. Her timing is great. Like she has that host quality. And not to say Druski cannot be a great host, but it's one of those we might want to test the waters in a different
Yeah.
aspect to see if that will then allow him to be able to host on the
Hmm.
main stage, right? It kind of reminds me of when they randomly chose Kevin Hart for the Oscars. Again, I
Hmm.
will still say he should just go ahead and did it, regardless. That was his dream. But it's like him doing comedy, great, but where was he a host before then, right? Um, just I would like for people to really think about the production of things more
Hmm.
than the virality of things because if Drewski came out there and bombed, then that doesn't look good for BET at all.
Hmm.
Versus, hey, Drewski might be doing something at the beginning to introduce the host
Hmm.
to bring his audience over, and then there's still a good production. Or Drewski's hosting the pre-show, and that leads into, oh, I miss 106 in Park when they used to do the pre-show.
Yeah,
Oh, that was
yeah,
such a good time.
the nostalgia.
Oh my
The
God.
nostalgia.
Great time. But like to even bring that back, like for more people to actually watch that, because I will see myself, jumping in if after hearing that the BET Awards is making it a little bit more exciting to watch versus what they have been doing the last 3 to 5 years. That is good and make me want to go back and watch. But they really do need to focus more on what we are trying to let. We're putting on a show. We're really entertaining. That is what the BET Awards has always been, is that aspect of entertaining the people who are coming here to watch, plus the awards.
Yeah, and I think that that has always been the struggle with, I think, any type of award show, but I think
Mm,
BET specifically because you're always trying to balance this older and new kind of aspect. Older award show models was like, okay, we choose like a polished host who can carry the room, land the jokes, move the show along, honor the institution, right, of,
mhm,
the nature of the awards in the first place. And then you have this kind of newer model where like, oh, let's choose someone who can create moments that, are going to circulate, online on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and, and stuff like that. And I think that's where like somebody like Drewski makes sense. He comes from that internet native comedy, right? So to me at least, like his persona is built on like that quick interruption, that awkwardness, that satire and improv and crowd interaction. And so BET likely saw him as somebody who could make the show feel less, obviously feel less, like formal and more like a live, kind of meme machine. And honestly, that's not a foolish strategy to have because award shows in general are fighting declining attention spans. With the era that we live in, fragmented audience, streaming competition, and the reality that many viewers now experience award shows through clips rather
mhm,
than watching, full broadcasts. So that is he's a content strategy. That's a content strategy, kind
mhm,
of aspect. But, as I think about Keke represents a kind of different cultural authority, right? She is somebody obviously who's also young, young, but, her youth, I think, is different than Drewski because she's not new media young in a sense, if that makes sense, right?
mhm,
As we think about Keke Palmer, like she grew up in the industry. She transitioned from a child star to an actress, singer, personality, and this very cultural commentator. So, like you're saying, that's why I think that joke landed so hard because it's playful, but it's also revealing something that's real. She's not just someone who can host BET. She really is someone who embodies what BET literally, is. Like you said, she has the theatrical aspect. She has the humor, she has the timing, she has that professional discipline. And so again,
Mm,
it's not to disregard anything that, Drewski can bring. And it's not to say that he didn't earn that opportunity. Again, he clearly has cultural reach. But Keke's presence raises the question of, you know, this kind of reassurance aspect of, okay, if we're trying to really symbolize culture, again,
mhm,
who holistically, can do that? And it makes it even weirder to not have Keke to have hosted. And the only reason I say that is because she was just announced as one of the board of advisor members,
mhm,
alongside legends like Queen Latifah, LL Cool J, and then you have others like Bob Johnson, Raymond McGuire, George Cheeks, and a lot of other people. And so, this kind of board of advisory, kind of aspect that, BET is trying to cultivate, is positioning her as part of its future facing leadership vision. So if you're doing that, then why create like a mixed message in a sense? Again, Drewski makes sense from a viral comedy standpoint, but Keke makes sense from a brand legacy and leadership standpoint, especially because you just announced her as one of the board advisory, members. So what kind of message, what kind of great message would that have been to send? Like, hey, we have somebody like Keke Palmer who has always been future facing and somebody who we see as a part of that vision. Let's put our money where our mouth is. And so
mhm.
you see her actually hosting one of culture's biggest nights.
Hmm. You
So
know,
yeah, yeah.
when you were speaking, it reminded me Kevin Hart actually did host like the BET Awards, and the reason why I was going to bring that up is because personally, I feel like the BET Awards forgot what the BET Awards used to be,
Used to be
because
right, right.
they are going more towards that formal structure, to mimic what the Oscars looks like, to mimic what the Emmys looks
Mhm.
like. When prior to that, they weren't a award show that focused on that formality. It was more of off of the cuff things,
Mhm.
similar to what that banter between Drewski and Keke happened to be, because
Mhm.
that is certain things that you would see at the BET Awards that existed in the 2007. You would see the host on stage just bagging on some other people in the audience and having a good time. You'll see call outs. You will see just a naturally engaged environment of people just having a good time. And that's the
Mhm.
thing that I like the most about the BET Awards, is because it wasn't all just for show. Yes, we're putting
Mhm.
on a performance because we're going to have our singers and whatnot. We're going to praise the people who are performing, but we're also going to be in genuine laughter just off the cuff.
Yeah.
And I think by shifting more towards, that structured vibe, it's what's been making a lot of people turn away from it.
Mhm.
Especially when you were there in the heyday of what the BET Awards was. The very first award show was a mess, but it was a good time.
Yeah. And to your point, I think that again, we've always had a problem with trying with striking balance because when the BET Awards was a little bit more lived in the moment, again, we were also living in a different time where it's like, okay, we were out there, but we still had like a sort of like class and respectability. Whereas I don't know, and it's not again to diss our culture because I love our culture, I love our people, but being truthfully honest, when we don't have things that are not in line now or unstructured, we get like debacles of like what I'm hearing happen at, at Essence Fest over this weekend. We're having just twerk contests on stage and just all this back and forth, people bringing beefs to, like these venues and stuff like that. And that is not what culture, is about. So again, I just think that, again, we never really had that really right thing to strike balance. And to me, I think that what would have been a very interesting thing, and again, I could see where this would be problematic as well. But I could have seen a scenario where what if BET went to both Druski and Keke Palmer and wanted them to like co-host to like move forward this promising vision. You have somebody like Druski who is bridging, like this internet culture and gap to bring into, the BET Awards. But again, you have somebody like Keke again, who BET is saying is one of the people helping shape the brand's future, then why
Hmm.
not let her be the face of its biggest night, cultural night? So but then again, I can also see where that would be problematic with people because then the conversation would shift. Oh, like why would you think that, somebody like Keke Palmer would need to like, have a co-host or, like things
Hmm.
like that. So, again, you can never, of course, please everybody, but I do think that there's a space where, maybe both aspects could have existed. Because honestly, I think some of my favorite, if I'm thinking back to some of my favorite BET award shows, have actually come from people who have like co-hosted. Like, of course, I don't mind like a single, host, but like I like when people co-host because you're getting like two like different energies to like
Hmm.
come together for like, a audience and stuff like that. So, and it's kind of like even when BET used to do like, okay, we're in the arena because, obviously we're giving the awards, people are performing, but we're also outside too. So like when the camera like would turn to like, oh yeah, what's happening on like the carpet or like what's happening outside. So you get, like these very different things. And that's what made us, obviously what makes us unique because again, we are the drivers of culture, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah.
And I definitely going to have to look into this Essence mess because I had no idea what was going on over there. But it kind of makes sense because Essence wasn't
Yeah,
the same since
yeah. And
management
Essence hasn't
changed.
been the thing. Like, and speaking as somebody who, like, I was literally going to Essence Fest from the time I was 10 years old.
Hmm.
And the nature and the culture of Essence Fest. And again, we're not even going to get because that's
Yeah.
a diluted topic. But again, it is to say when we do have cultural nights, or cultural weekends like this. Again, not everything is going to run smoothly, or things like that. There's going to be tech hiccups and things like that. But again, I think as a culture, we should be allowed to express ourselves, but there's a part of us that when we express ourselves too much, you know,
Hmm.
sometimes we cross some boundary that we need to kind of, roll it back,
Hmm.
roll it back a little bit because some things just don't belong in certain spaces. And
Yeah.
so I'm just like, or again, that could be our own personal bias. They could probably feel like, well, you know what? This is what it is now. And you know what? If that suits you,
Hmm.
have, have at
But
it.
yeah, I mentioned that because like it's about the, forgetting where you came from, where you are kind of discussion because Essence in and of itself completely new management, right?
Mm,
That did not take on or do enough research into the history of the organization before they started having the festival, right? And then with the BET Awards,
mm,
it's the erasure of what existed before and not figuring out how do we tie in the two where we can still have the off the cuff and still be respectable. And I
mm,
think that's where the lack is. It's more so how we make sure that we can sell this to the people or sell
mm,
this to an audience without understanding that we don't need anything to be sold to us. We're
mm,
just here for a great time for one, but we're here to make sure that the people who get their be supported, that they earned it, that I recognize who these people are, or even if this is a new generation artist that I have no idea who they are, that I'm still celebrating with them because I'm happy for this moment and I got some great entertainment while learning about these new people, right?
exactly.
And having some sense of structure that comes along with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah, I
and
think that's the problem.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And again, I think it's going to be, a continued conversation that, it's kind of like it needs to get together. But speaking of continued conversations, another kind of topic that kind of was prevalent going on online, but it's kind of like it's not a new conversation, so I don't think it necessarily got as much traction. But I think that something that actually BET does do well now is when it comes to like the naming of awards. So like this is like another kind of, again, cultural conversation, because the debate around Tiana Taylor and Miss Lauryn Hill shows that how fans often treat award titles as if they are some sort of permanent ranking, when many of these awards are really about timing, narrative, visibility, and branding.
Mm,
Right. So the outrage that some people have online is that there are far more people who are deserving of Icon of the Year than, Tiana Taylor. No disrespect to her, but like there's far more people who can deserve an Icon of the Year award. And yes, Lauryn Hill is a legend. Obviously, she's a living legend, but what about so and so? And so, this whole thing about, I think BET's own language matters here, right? Icon of the year is not icon of all time, right? And if you look at the nature, and a lot of times people don't look at this, they'll just look at the title, but they don't look at the description. When they are presenting icon of the year, they are honoring the artist who is defining this moment. So someone whose work, presence, vision are setting the tone right now. That makes the case for somebody like Tiana Taylor much more clear, because BET was not only honoring her music career, they were honoring the full multi hyphenates, that she has, that across music, acting, directing, choreography, fashion, just all these things that, she has done. And so it's paying homage to the creative force that she is.
mm,
It is not saying that, oh, she, is like the hardest in the game, or, like, she's the one that, has put out the most, or, or whatever. It's not saying that at all. Again, it's about the creative force, behind it. So that distinction matters, because when some fans hear icon, they immediately go to seniority. How can Tiana be an icon when X, Y, and Z have been around longer? Or why is it that, if we're emphasizing Lauryn Hill's impact, right? About this, kind of her genre defining artistry. Well, why does Lauren, get this before this person? Why not someone who has been consistent longer? Why not someone who's never gotten their flowers, or, or whatever it is? And again, I think that, again, to give kudos to BET, just in my personal opinion, I actually like the way that they actually frame award titles and give
mhm.
an actual definition, so you understand why the award is being given, regardless if you like the person, dislike the person, or whatever, you know. So just what, your thoughts on that.
No, I agree. I think people need to really, really focus in on their beliefs or their desire to control others or certain situations, because I get in those moments, especially when we think of like the Oscars or whatnot, where we have a running of everybody who's nominated and someone who randomly wins something for a film that may not have been that great.
Mhm.
When we look at box office numbers, the support, and all this other stuff that goes behind that particular film or ratings, all the things that they take in consideration. I
Mhm.
get when people will feel slighted in that. But in other situations where it's, hey, we don't have a list of people that we've nominated. It's just us coming collectively to look at people to figure out who we want to give this award to. Then
Mhm.
there's no need to really feel like somebody's been slighted. They weren't considered. All right. Like, and it's not. anything bad about that. It's just like you said, in the current moment, this person is not there. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't feel comfortable if um Lauren Hill got the icon of of the year versus the living legend. Because one, to be real, I don't know what Lauren Hill was doing last year or this year.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, and no offense to her, I know she was on tour
Right,
recently,
yeah.
but I think that was 2 years ago. So if she's not putting out anything, why would I expect for her to have a title for this year of 2026? It wouldn't
Yeah,
make any
exactly.
sense.
Exactly. And when you think about like, because again, Tiana, I mean, when they were highlighting Tiana Taylor, they mentioned obviously that the fact that what she had like four nominations, the Icon of the Year honor, of course, major directing recognition, a Grammy nominated visual album, and major acting momentum that included a Golden Globe win and an Oscar nomination. So, hello,
Mhm.
in nature, Tiana is the it's the
Uh,
moment.
Literally that.
So,
So it's
so it's
like,
like if you don't like it, I mean, if you don't like the woman, then just say that. Like
it makes it so much easier. We don't have to just develop all these different nuances that
exactly.
don't really need to be tapped into. It's just I don't like her and I don't think that she deserved that. Or I refuse to believe that she deserved it because of how much I don't like her, and
Uh,
that is fine.
and that's fine. Like so, but like when I hear this discourse, I'm like, y'all are really not understanding that when we're having all these conversations about who deserves what, this, why not this person, things like that. The problem that, I think a lot of people are not understanding is that award shows rarely work that way, even in general. They are not
Mhm.
simply asking who deserves this most in a universal sense. They are asking who's available, who can carry a tribute, whose story fits the year's theme, who
Mhm.
helps bridge, generations, who can attract performers to participate in something. Who's going to give a show, an award show, some sort of cultural weight. And that
Exactly.
is why I think people get frustrated because fans, a lot of times, I think, want awards to be this is about justice. Like, this is just,
Mhm.
but networks, again, they use awards as this is storytelling you
Mhm.
know and sometimes we can hit it on the nail. Sometimes, I'm not even going front, sometimes it is a clear miss where I think, okay, really, I think we were deaf when it came to this. Deaf when it came to this. And also, to throw a little bit of gender conversation into this as well, I really only see this really being talked about when it comes to our Black women.
Yeah,
you
right.
know Again, so there is something very uncomfortable about how quickly Black women's flowers become debatable. So
Mhm.
Tiana receives this major honor, and the response becomes, oh, is she really iconic enough? Lauren Hill, receives a living legend award, and the response becomes about, but what about her inconsistency? you know
Right.
so, again, Black women are often asked to, of course, be exceptional, be consistent, be humble, be grateful,
Mhm.
be current, be legendary, all be a commercial success, all these things, as to make it seem like all those things have to exist at once to say, like, oh, she earned this.
Exactly. And the thing is, Lauryn Hill learned that legend title the last well, actually before the last album she put out. So who are you to like say that she's not a living legend? Because she could
Exactly.
have just been at her home sitting down happy as heck without anything regarding being consistent, and she still has that title because guess what? Her music
Exactly.
is still gonna get played today.
Exactly.
That scene from Sister Act still gives me life to the entire
Exactly.
movie still gives me life, and a part of that is because of Lauryn Hill.
Mhm.
Like, stop playing games with this
Just
woman.
stop. Just stop. And
Stop.
again, if you don't like Lauryn Hill because you don't like the fact that you went to her concert and she was 3 hours late to show up, again, that is personal. That has nothing to do about the embodiment about who
Okay,
she
and
is.
you
Like,
knew
if
that
you
this
don't
was
like
already a problem before you showed up. You were just hoping not the one I go to. And guess what? What she was consistent in is being late. So she was very much so. Like, stop it.
again, and we have to stop with the again, we have to look at personal feelings. Like again, now
Hmm.
I've never necessarily been to a Lauryn Hill concert, but yeah, if I go to a
It will
concert
not
and
go.
somebody is 3 hours, 4 hours late, yeah, I'm gonna be upset. It's like, girl, what is you doing? But that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, because now you being honored, now I got some personal beef with you.
Like it just to even go back to what you were talking about in terms of like fitting the theme that like you have to think about like let's take the humanitarian awards,
Mhm.
right? If the theme of this is rejuvenation, we're not going to find somebody who just been putting their money on what um economic growth, which is a great thing, but we might actually look for a person who's actually been looking doing work of restoration. That could be making sure that we're focusing on that economic growth as well as making sure people are eating and also um, revitalizing whole community. If I could find a candidate who's doing all that work, I'm just going to choose that person, regardless of if this other person put $3 billion into the work. They
Exactly.
don't fit the theme. I'm going to choose
Exactly.
this person that way we can talk about how they have rejuvenated this entire community because it fits the story that we're trying to tell.
And I
Like,
think that exactly. And I think that fans get really in their feelings because again, people are making different choices as we have entered this era, which is honestly good about giving people their flowers. Of course, when it used to come to award shows, people would have to like be damn near death to
hmm
get the praise and honor that like they rightfully deserve. And I think that people still feel some type of way about that. It's kind of like, no, we've entered into our era where no, like we want to give our people their flowers while they are here, while they are making like these cultural impacts and stuff like that. And yes, in some capacity I do understand about sometimes when things are given and it feels like, okay, this is really given like prematurely. Like again, if you've been in music for 8, 9, 10 years, okay, yeah, you may put a little bit of a dot on something, but do not think of yourself being called like somebody who's a legend or whatever. That is just entirely ludicrous. But
hmm
I think that the tension really is that fans want award shows to correct every historical oversight at once. And and when
hmm
you're thinking about a BET or an Oscars or any type of award platform, they are making a narrative. They are making narrative and branding decisions. You know.
hmm
So yeah, so again, it's just this again, when it comes to your faves, and again, we all got our faves. Like, we get, it's like again, we get it. But we gotta learn how to separate, again, fact from feelings.
hmm
you know.
And even in that context of giving people their flowers, the people who don't see this, they do not know the BET Awards because it is something that's still happening to this day. I have not seen a BET Awards where flowers are not given to people who've done the work. People not even on the docket. They see them in the audience. I so appreciate you for doing all this. I do you remember going to smoking? Like, do you like they will have these types of
Mhm.
conversations to honor the people that they see that's in the audience
Mhm.
and even have if they have a personal story, they share those things.
Yeah.
Like there's so much recognition of the unspoken people within the music industry, within the film industry, um, in the full entertainment industry that you actually get a lot of that recognition at the BET Awards.
Mhm.
Um, so the people who feel as though somebody's being slighted, just actually wait until some like they are going to be acknowledged at some point. It may not be in an award, but
Hmm.
if they're actually being as big of an impact that you think that they are, it's going to be seen. It's going to be spoken on while they're
Hmm.
still here, and especially once they're not here. Like I don't know how many times Anita Baker has been had a small little tribute at the BET Awards, like, just for being in the audience. Somebody just randomly starts singing "Caught Up in the Rapture." Like there's a compilation. I'm just saying that because I recently saw it. How many times that woman's particularly, because y'all know I'm an Anita Baker fan, so of course I'm going to find this.
Right.
But there's other people outside of her who get this recognition on a regular basis. Like,
Yeah,
y'all calm
and then
down.
again, and then people just will not get over, things from 25, 30 years ago or whatever. Because even with Janet presenting Tiana with the icon of the year, like, of course, Janet is going to look good head to toe. Of course,
Amen.
that's
Hallelujah.
natural. But even people were online saying, because, like, because the nature of her outfit, she had on, like, like this hat that kind of like cover her face, but she had on like this shirt, and on the shirt, it was Tupac. It had like a Tupac emblem. And and instead of just commenting on like, oh, you like her look, you don't like her look, then now the conversation descended. Oh, I don't know why she wearing a Tupac shirt. Didn't she require Tupac to take a test when they were on Poetic Justice just to even kiss her and stuff like that? I'm like, where do we jump in the nature of logic? Like, okay, this
Wait,
woman cannot wear a Tupac shirt
pause.
without that
Pause.
happen.
You mad about the testing? Why? Wait.
I'm like,
In the movie,
what?
you supposed to get people tested, y'all. But one, because I haven't really looked at the image of what she was wearing, but just the description reminds me of an album cover that she had. So it's like if she's pulling off that same look, you don't know Janet. Two,
Like again, like if you don't like Janet, then just say that.
okay.
It's trying to have all these jumps in logic. I don't understand how we get from a look. And again, if you don't like her, if you don't like what she had on, then just say that. But then how do we get to that conversation? But because you see Tupac on the nature of the top of her t-shirt, now it becomes, oh well, I don't know why she wearing a Tupac shirt because during the nature of poetic justice, she required him to get tested to even kiss, to
Right.
even kiss her and stuff like that. Oh, okay.
Like
Okay,
my
so clearly we in our feelings and we never
okay.
we never
Like
got
Janet Jackson could have come up there with the designer plastic bag on and looking good. I'm just like, girl,
exactly.
you better wear that plastic bag. I'm not, it's
Exactly.
Janet Jackson. The,
Exactly.
f-
Like
what are we doing?
mhm.
Again, you can not like her for whatever reason, but we cannot deny it's Janet Jackson.
Exactly. Like, come on, people. Just, finding anything to harp on, complain about, or whatever. And again, we go back to the thing of if you don't like the person, just simply say that. That's actually just much easier. You
That's
know,
so much
when you
easier.
just say I don't like the person, people can interpret that for whatever you want to. You could not like them for their fashion, their music, their hair, just the way that they look. Again, if you on that time, all you gotta do is just say that. But
Okay.
trying to have these leaps in logic or bringing up stuff from 35 years ago. Like,
Like, why are you not testing people before you get kissed? Like, not to say that you don't you need to, but come on. Like if
and
calm
again,
down.
anything that y'all can do. I can't. I
I
can't.
can't either.
But speaking of that though, last conversation that really had people in an uproar based on the audience reaction with BET was the artist Young Miami's song Spin That. So if you're not familiar, Young Miami, she's a, newer, kind of rapper. She releases
City
songs.
girl.
she released a song, and that people are calling it like the summer song of, 2026 or whatever. So the song Spin That, I think has now become like her highest charting like solo hit so far. And so, the way to kind of frame this is one song cannot no one song is above critique, of course, but because people are turning one viral song into this kind of referendum on Black culture, literacy, parenting, gender, all these type things, and morality all at once is kind of wild to me. So again, I think that this is a space that it's a space where multiple things can be true. Spin That can be a catchy and fun, type of song. It could be shallow. It could be like, oh no, this is more of like an adult club record. It can also raise fair questions though about what gets amplified when, children are watching. But the problem is not, I think, that people are, like critiquing it. We can critique anything. But the problem is when that critique turns into like this, now we're having like this moral panic. Like, now we're
Yeah.
having like this class shaming and, this groupthink, kind of aspect going on. And, a lot of people have gone about and, have been talking about this. And so, really wanted to open up this conversation about, what happens when we have moments like this. Because a song can be bad and still work, and I
Mhm.
think that that's the thing about music as being nuanced in a way. A song doesn't have to be the most lyrically prophetic thing, to be effective, right? We got songs that are just meant to be a club joint. We got songs now that are specifically made for TikTok. We have obviously our music that is, of course, a call and response, right? So again, the right that doesn't make the song have great writing, but it can make a song have a great like viral, kind of moment. So, again, I was seeing some clips about, people are saying like, oh, like the song is just made like if you just want to be a dumb person or, whatever. And I'm just like, okay, where did that kind of logic, kind of come in? Like to say like only stupid people would enjoy the song to me is like ludicrous. I mean, it's not my type of song, but I would
Mhm.
never jump to that logic as to say like, oh, just because you like something, then that just makes you dumb or makes you stupid or whatever. But before I get into like other people's critiques, from the music industry or just comments, like what was your like take on like the Young Miami, kind of spin that?
So Spin That is a song that does not exist for me outside of TikTok. Just, just be real. I maybe if I actually listen to the radio, I might hear the song. But it's not going to be something that I download for myself. It's not going to make it to any of my playlists. It's not even going to make it to my general list of things
Mhm.
that's on my phone.
Right.
It's not even going to make it to my YouTube because even in preparation of, our conversation, I did not go to YouTube to listen to the full song because I don't care enough about
Exactly.
that song.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
it's a very, just like WAP, this is a very catchy and fun
Mhm.
song. And is it bad? Yes, WAP was bad. Like in terms of like there was no real, granted, yes, there were points in WAP where okay, we got some good lyricism going on, but it was not a focus of I'm here to just run bar for bar to really educate mofos. It's about I'm here to have a good time,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to have a message that may seem a little bit unhealthy for some, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I'm about my coin. I'm releasing this for the purposes of my coin and to have a good time.
Mhm.
So on
Yeah.
that end, I'm like, yeah, it's a fun song. Does it have problematic messages to it? Absolutely. What song
Yeah.
does not these days? So it fits with what is popular in most spaces.
Right. And I think that this is like again a multi-layered conversation because one of the things that I wanted to bring up was that there's a platform where these ladies on this podcast they are bringing up like the concern about like kids repeating the song which is I would say which is valid like when when adult music I think travels through again your school hallways, your dance challenges, TikTok, right? It doesn't just stay in what is, I think, supposed to be an adult space. And so the audience, and that's, I think, a big problem with the digital era we live in, right? The audience is not, this is not something that is made for a particular audience. The audience collapses. And
Mm,
so a song may be for quote unquote grown folks, but the internet makes it available to, everyone. And because we have such short form video strips, that take away the context, right? A child may only know the catchy part, not the irony or the performance or the adult world consequences. But the problem that I had with what these ladies were bringing up was that we have to also be careful not to put all the responsibility on the artist, right? Children's exposure is shaped by a lot of things. And
mm,
yes, if children are only being exposed to a certain type of music or they're only being exposed to in an environment that's crafting certain narratives, then yes, that is concerning. But usually children's exposure is shaped by all sorts of things. One, you as a parent or a guardian, yes, their experience is shaped by the things that they see in algorithms, radio edits, peer culture, streaming platforms, decisions that are, made in marketing. So, yes, artists have influence, but they are not the only adults in a room. So, I got where a part of their argument was stemming from because, again, yes, I think that again one of the main differences between like how we were raised versus like new generation of course is that
mhm,
of course, we didn't have the nature of an embedded social media aspect. So that's why we grew up on our parents' music and, and our grandparents' music and stuff like that, because music was something that we shared. And you got to, as the adult, you got to, I wouldn't say censor, but you got to kind of have a little bit more creative control in what your child, kind of consumed and listened to. And so music became a very communal and generational experience
mhm.
versus now like how a lot of parents say you may not allow your child to have a phone but guess what children out here got burner phones that they keep at school they got apps that they on apps that you don't even know about and stuff like that so there's this like dismiss aspect of control so while you may not allow this in your household who knows where the your children are consuming things and so that argument I do think is valid but to again shift this conversation to like this one song that may be good, may not be good, or whatever, and now putting all that responsibility on the artist is just it's wild to me. But before I go into
Mhm.
like the actual artists who did speak about it, just what do you think about like the whole nature of children's exposure to,
Hmm.
you know?
Feel like it's really important for adults to remind themselves that they were children once before.
Mm,
And I don't know how many times I see on social media of adults older
mm,
than me, same age as me, some a little bit younger, having a recognition of, oh, this is what this song was talking about. A
mm,
song that you sang and danced to for ages or from your youth, and you're now looking back at it and like, oh, okay, I don't know why my mom had me listen to that. You didn't understand it. You
exactly,
didn't get it. You
exactly.
didn't recognize what you were talking about, which is okay. And with the kids today, if they're saying spend that, they may know spending as money, and they may just think, oh, I'm paying for something, and that's about it. They probably don't know what a scam is, and they're still saying, "Where my scam?" Like they are just having a good time because this is something that is popular,
Mm,
right? Let the kids be kids because first and foremost, you cannot create an environment where they're not going to get exposed to this, especially if they go to public school. So
yeah,
like it's a strong chance that they're going to hear the song regardless. But then we also have to remind ourselves of what it means to be a parent we can have the conversations with our kids to instill in them that
Exactly.
scamming is not a good thing, that
Right.
it does cause harm to other people, even if we may not see that direct harm. But we can sit down with our children to give them some context of what makes this a bad song, while still also telling them that you can still sing the song if that helps you fit in with your classmates. But that's another conversation because you don't have to.
Hmm.
Uh, or if you're just having a good time because it's just catchy,
Hmm.
right? Like you're
Exactly.
not bad because you want to sing a catchy song, but I don't want to reinforce a behavior of causing indirect or direct harm to another person.
Exactly. And I think that the point that you're raising is something that I liked how like Lisa Ray, actress Lisa Ray brought up when she was speaking, I think to Carlos King,
Hmm.
where it was kind of like I know better, but it's like I still had fun kind of true. So like Lisa Ray put out this like clip because I think she like recently joined like TikTok or whatever, and she was saying, like especially like the younger people were asking her, okay, so like what's gonna be like your first video? And, of course, she wanted to do something that, was going to be catchy, and stuff like that. So she's explaining in the video. And I think it's such a very human, obviously, very human reaction where she's like, oh, yeah, like I participated, I had fun. But then it's like I later listened more closely and I understood why people, were conflicted. So I think she's really having a very like adult truth, not necessarily endorsing every lyric or whatever, obviously she's participating in a trend, moving to a beat, again, enjoying the moment. And then it's like, then realizing, wait, what am I actually, singing? And I think, like, again, like you're saying, that matters because it's showing, like, how viral culture works, right? We hear a hook. Like the hook, reaches our body before the lyrics even reach our consciousness. So, like, we dance first, or we're getting into a group and then we then we process. So I like the fact that she brought up like I can enjoy a moment and still take responsibility for what, you know, my platform as well. You know, and it's not something that I don't think obviously she needs to apologize for or anything like that. But I like the fact that she is also adult enough to like obviously take into account like I understood why people are conflicted about it as well. um
Hmm.
but even when it comes to like our musical artists who have like spoken out about this, I know India Ari has gotten a lot of
Oh
flack
yeah.
for the things that she did. And again, this goes to something that I don't think that people were really listening to, because I actually think that India Ari was making a actually kind of more like nuanced point. She was not saying boycott the song. And she did clarify, of course, what she was responding to. But I think that, where some people kind of I think falter or go wrong is turning music turning music influences culture into, oh, okay, this one song is destroying culture. And that is, of course, not the same thing. Of course, we know music influences identity, our social norms, our behavior, all this type stuff. We have research that continuously is published to say, like, especially when you have something that is repeated and reinforced, yes, it does become a part of that. But influence is not the same as direct causation. So
Hmm.
even if we go back to the child conversation, like a child hearing spin that, again, like you said, does not automatically mean become a scammer. Like, but if we are having repeated glamorization of scams, fast money, hyper consumption, these sexualized performances, now, yeah, that can become part of the atmosphere that young people, kind of breathe. So India Arie's point to me was much larger, as she was saying, be mindful about what you consume. you
Hmm.
know but again, internet, again, I think a lot of people took it as to say like, everyone who enjoys, like this song is somehow lost, or something like
Right.
that. So
Yeah, and I can definitely rock with India on this one. Because I love my neo soul bird. I do. I do. I love me some India Ari, but she is a bird. I learned that later in life. But but she's right. We really it is important for us to be mindful of these things, right? Um like I said a little bit, like having the actual conversation with your children about the what this means, and having a conversation with yourself. Like, if this is something that I find fascinating, that I really enjoy, why do I find that so enjoyable? Why do I find the message that is produced by Young Miami meaningful to me? Why am I taking this to heart? Like, it is okay for us to take a step to have that level of introspection of to understand the why behind our interests. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about.
Mm,
Um of what it is that brought me here, because there's some level normalization that happened or socialization that happened to where I found this to be okay, which is why I've always had a issue with like the housewives shows, and not
mhm,
necessarily, whatever they got going on, let them do that, but the normalization of certain behaviors in how we handle conflict, how that
mhm.
becomes normalized, and people think this is the way that I'm supposed to behave.
Yeah.
um, but it's also, um, when you become an adult and you still behave this way, it is important for us to think, I'm acting like a housewife. Why am I doing that?
Exactly.
Why are, because there's unfortunately not a male equivalent outside of just, wanting to be a gangbanger or whatever why do I want to do that? Why do I
Mhm,
feel like the only way for towards financial stability is to have ownership of things? Why do I have that mentality? Why do I think that the only way for me to be a successful black man is for me to understand the stock market and trades? Right? Why do
mhm,
I think this is my only avenue for success, be it basketball, rapping, right?
mhm.
Versus other things. It's important for us to take a moment to reflect on these things so that we can, one, identify if this is a problem in our life, or if this is something that has been normalized, socialized, or just a part of the culture.
Exactly. Exactly. And I even like how uh the artist Carrie Hilson, she was being interviewed on a podcast recently, and she wanted to talk more about the tweet that she ended up putting out about the just a simple fact. She very simple tweet. She was saying like music can heal and it can harm.
Hmm.
And I think that her point was, and as she brings a little bit up when she was being interviewed, is about balance, you know. And to me, what she was saying is not saying every song needs to teach a lesson, of course, but she is saying, and I do agree with this in some way. I think like the music industry, just in general, has lost a bit of balance, and I think that's also
Hmm.
a real issue when we think about music, especially black music, right? We've all, like she said, we've always had our sexual songs, our ratchet songs, drug songs, scam songs, party songs, diss records, wild anthems, all those type things. That's not anything new. But historically, there was more room in the mainstream for a wider range. And that's something that I think she was getting to when she was being interviewed. Like she was
Hmm.
saying, like she had obviously influences that were political rap, spiritual soul, grown, our grown R&B and sexy music, our conscious hip hop, our protest music, our love songs, our ratchet club music, everything like that. So I think that her concern when she brought this up is not the problem that songs like Spin That exist. Like we've always had that. The problem is when songs like Spin That, they can either dominate a budget or a playlist or an algorithm or even like an award show moment. Because again, that's what kind of got this started when she came out. Like all of the audience, started, like singing it. And I think that
Hmm.
that's what kind of propelled the moment. It's kind of like, okay, we can enjoy this song, but like, should we collectively, like in an audience for Black culture entertainment, be like singing it? Again, that's neither here or there. But again, when we're having these cultural conversations, it's different from how we think about respectability politics in a way, and more so a critique on like the industry imbalance, and I
Hmm.
think that's what, she was bringing up, which I thought was a fair point, because it's like, just like how we're talking about this now, the only reason I'm not really familiar with Young Miami, don't really listen to her music, but because of the fact that people consistently are talking about it, when I log on social media, it's like now that is dominating, like the algorithms and stuff like that. So, it kind of not forces us to talk about it, but like, helps in like, oh, we need, let's talk about this, So, but like you say, it's kind of like, it's not on my playlist, it's not something I listen to, so it's not for me, and that's okay. And going back to the child aspect again, it's not up to the artist to teach your children. It's up to you to teach your children. And one of the best things to do when it comes to raising children is to know, like, yes, you can enjoy a song and not necessarily believe in the actual aspects of that song. You can dance to something that has a hook. Again, like you said, just because I listen to lyrics about being a scam or being this, that does not mean I'm about to go out and scam, you know. So again, learning to decipher and teaching children learning how to be their own individual as well. You can enjoy being amongst your friends, you can enjoy peer things and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, knowing that you also have a mind of your own. So
Hmm.
just because everybody likes something doesn't mean you have to like it, you know. So again, just having that differentiation. So again, I thought that there were certain aspects of the conversation that should be talked about, but in retrospect, again, don't know Young Miami, don't really listen to the song like that, but just putting this quote unquote thing about this one song destroying gold culture is like, wait a minute, what? Again, we jump to very big leaps in logic. Like, what is happening?
Logic, who is that? Other than the Christian rapper, shout out to Logic. Who is Logic? We know.
Yeah.
Logic. Gotta love
And
that
I don't
guy.
know. It's just, I think that again, people just have to really understand that again, especially when we're thinking about, we have to be very careful of instant consensus, right? Social media makes people feel like we need to pick a side immediately. Either we need
Hmm.
to praise something or condemn something. We can either defend Young Miami or defend Indiari. This can either be fun or it could be deep. But again, culture is not that simple,
Mm-mm.
right? So again, we need to be careful about confusing virility with value, right? A song can be everywhere, does not automatically make it artistically strong. But a song being simple doesn't make it automatically worthless,
Exactly.
So
Oh, Lordy. I think that's all I have on the
like,
topic. You?
yeah, yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Awesome. Well, before we close the things, I know might as well actually do a mention of it before the day pass and people just like, what are we not having an episode this week? There will not be an episode that will be releasing in 2 weeks, y'all. Taking a little small break. Typically record on Sundays. And I think yeah, so the episodes release on the Wednesday, so the 22nd, don't expect no type of episode to come out. We will return in August. That is after July. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Um, get some rest in, all those other good things. 'Cause rest is important, people. It really is
exactly.
it's needed. It's necessary.
Mm.
Burnout is not for us.
And it don't look cute.
It don't look
It
cute.
don't look cute.
It's bad for your skin too. Mm-mm.
Exactly. And look,
Mm-mm.
I know y'all don't want us out here having like bad skin. Like, we not finna
Okay.
do that.
Listen,
We not finna
I
do
would say one thing because this is completely off topic. The AC where I'm at kind of went out for a little bit during this heat dome situation. Oh my God,
that.
it was bad. But I would say sweat does make the skin glow like no other. I was in session with a client. It wasn't a big
Get the
sweat
small, yeah.
moment.
I need the small glisten.
Yeah, it was a nice little glisten. I looked through that camera. I was like, ooh. I was like, the reason why we moisturize. Oh God. Anyways, let me stop being full of myself. All right. So, any last word before I close this out, Tyrell?
No, I think that is it.
Perfect, perfect. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to Melanin and Moonlight, your late night space for deep, thought-provoking conversations about sex, culture, and the well-being of the Black community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep the vibes flowing and your mind open. Bye.
Bye.